Hey, welcome everyone. I hope we enjoyed a very short break. Everyone was able to go out, get some water, get some fresh air, maybe stretch those legs. For the next hour, we will have another concurrent session. So first we have Working Upstream for Children's Health Equity. And then following that, we have Community Building and Social Connectedness to Promote Children's Health. Child maternal health are incredibly important to the state of Minnesota and also to me. So I look very much forward to this. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Fawn Youngbear-Tibbetts. I work for Wicoie, Nandagikendan, a Dakota and Ojibwe language immersion early childhood center in South Minneapolis. Presenting with me today is Beth and Dodds, Andrea Heras, and Jason Lee. And they'll be presenting the community building and social connectedness to promote children's health. And then the second section will be myself and Maren Hofer presenting the Working Upstream for Children's Health and Equity. As you can see, our session today was 2 presentation topics. We submitted the proposals separately, but since they're so closely related, MPHA asked us to do them together for you today. So the Community Solutions Fund is a grant program within the Department of Minnesota Health that was administered by the Center for Health and Equity. In 2019, the Minnesota legislature directed MDH to establish the Community Solutions Fund grant program. The purpose of the Community Solutions Grant Program are to improve childhood development outcomes related to the well-being of children of color and American Indian children from prenatal to grade 3 and their families. This includes, but is not limited, goals outlined by the Minnesota Department of Human Services, Early Childhood Systems, Reform Effort, Early Learning, Health, Well-being, Economic Security, and safe, stable, nurturing relationships and environments to reduce racial disparities in children's health and development from prenatal grade to grade 3, and to promote racial and geographic equity. The grant program advances these purposes by funding community-based solutions for challenges that are identified by the communities. The legislature also directed MDH to convene a Community Health Solutions Advisory Council to advise MDH on the development of the requests for proposals, how to build the capacity of the communities, and how to promote child and family well-being and address the social determinants of healthy childhood development. This legislator was really specific about what this advisory council will look like. So we had 2 members from each group of the African heritage community, the Latino community, the Asian Pacific Islander community, 2 members representing American Indian communities, 2 parents of children of color, 1 member with research and academic expertise, 1 member representing an organization that advocates on behalf of our children and communities of color, and 3 from outside the 7-county metropolitan area. Council members bring their professional expertise and lived experience in racial equity, early childhood development, and advocacy. To date, the council has guided the development of the RFP, reviewed grant applications, and made funding recommendations. They provide ongoing oversight of CFS and support MDH and other racial equity and early childhood initiatives. CSF has $1.75 million in funding available each year. $1 million of that is from the legislative appropriation, and $750,000 comes from CFSF's major partner, the federally funded Preschool Development Grant, or PDG, out of the Minnesota Department of Education. PDG is an interagency collaboration that focuses on improving early childhood systems, and they currently fund 23 community organizations and tribes. They are funded for 3 years, starting in this fiscal year of 2020. Today's session, as I said earlier, is going to be in 2 parts. The first one, working upstream for children's health and equity. Our presenters will talk about how they are taking a systems change approach to achieve their equity in early childhood and health development by focusing their efforts on the root causes of health inequalities. As you know, the impacts of a system approach are more long-lasting and more sustainable. And where we have my organization, Wicoie, who's focusing on food access, and MAN, who's focusing on social stigmas. In the second portion, community building and social connectedness to promote children's health, our 3 presenters will talk about how involving community members to serve in various capacities of their programming is a powerful way to build community and social connectedness. It is also important for sustainability, because even if funding goes away, what community members have done and continue to do, building the connections, will remain in the community for the benefit of future generations. So let me introduce you here to Jason Lee. He will be your first presenter.
Good afternoon. My name is Jason Lee from the Korean Service Center. As you can see, we were established in 1989, and currently we have about 30 staff members and 10 board of directors who are guiding us in our management, and annual budget of about $2 billion. It's 2 million. I just want to make sure you're awake. So our mission statement, which would be very similar to a lot of the ethnic minority groups represented here, is to provide supportive and resources services to our immigrants. So not just the Koreans, but in our office, a lot of the other ethnic group minorities also stop by for support. So we do provide to the international group. And our goals are, wellness, education, advocacy, health-related support. Specific to the Community Solutions Fund, we had a very simple goal: to provide mental, emotional, behavioral health support to children 0 to 8 for the Korean immigrant and adoptive families. As you know, Minnesota has the largest Korean adoptee families in America. And our approach, if I could break it down into 3 parts, it's defining what the community meant. Because we all think Korean community as one, but we know that there are more. We know there are the recent immigrants. We know there are the long-term, the 2nd, 3rd generations, and also the adopted families. So we wanted to know, are there differences between these communities? And also, after we define the issue and know where we want to go, once we know the gap, are there solutions, something that we just take it out of a book and just lay it all across all of these different communities, or are the solutions really catered to the people that are present and that we're trying to support? And ultimately, what we're trying to do is make sure that our children are healthy mentally and emotionally, especially through the recent years of the COVID situation. So this was a fun exercise in defining what community was. And I am in one of these 3 categories. My parents are in one of these 3 categories, and I have friends and colleagues who are in different categories as well. And as I mentioned, these are the recent immigrants who have more followed the Korean norms, and they're more familiar with the Korean culture. And then there are the long-term, who are fully assimilated into American life and lifestyle. And then the adoptee children who have been living in mostly in American families, so they're, we consider fully assimilated to the American lifestyle. So we have these community members, different stakeholders that we've identified. And then looking at the solutions that we're trying to find for improving the mental health of our children, we realized who has the answer. I mean, we certainly don't have the answer. Who are the people who could really support us in defining, pinpointing the real issues at hand? And we realized it's the parents, it's the health experts in our field who are familiar with both cultures. It's the community leaders, the religious leaders, a lot of different people who could provide input into our coming up with the solution. And I'm going to focus on just one aspect of the project, which is the advisory committee. And I know all of us have an advisory committee when we were first planning a project to provide input, to provide guidance. But it was interesting that when we put together our advisory committee, we had people from all three different communities, from the immigration groups, the adoptees, and we had people from the parent group, the teacher group, the health professional groups, the community leader groups. So in a sense, our advisory committee was almost like a microcosm of the people, the children that we were trying to address. So it turned out that we needed to spend a lot of time with this group. And because of the language familiarity and cultural familiarity, we had to provide two separate advisory committee meetings, one in Korean and one in English, just to make sure that we captured everything as specific as possible. So going through this process was very comprehensive, and we did get a lot of information. And I think we were able to really pinpoint what the solutions that we needed to get at. And just to provide with an example, we would come out with some workshops or activities that we think are awesome for the kids to make sure that their mental health is improving. But then there are groups within our community that are comfortable with sharing the condition of their children. So my kid has so-and-so problem, my kid has this situation. But then there are groups who are more recent immigrants who are not very prone to, who are comfortable sharing information about my kid. So we plan these activities and we invite a lot of people saying, this is gonna be amazing. We're gonna really hit a home run. And then 5 people show up. And we're thinking something didn't go right between planning and execution. And where did that happen? It happened because we weren't paying too much attention to the differences within the communities, sub-communities within the Korean culture. So having said that, and this final page in conclusion, and this is gonna sound funny, but we do need to spend a lot of time and make sure that we involve as much people as possible, different communities, different familiarity with the culture. So our advisory committee, we spent a lot of time on it, the whole year on it, just building it and making sure that it was operating well. But we realized that after coming to the 3rd year that we shouldn't spend too much time on it, because ultimately we're trying to get at the children. We need more contact time with parents and children through the workshops, through the seminars that we have with teachers, with the website information that we provide. Because if I were an investor and I were looking at my organization and saying, so you spent 3 years and how many hours have you really spent with children and parents and the measured improvements versus the hours you spent planning for it? If I were a investor from a business world, I would not support our organization. But I thank the MDH for being so gracious and giving us long-term outlook on this. And as we look at this, it is conflict. We need to spend more time, but we also don't want to spend more time. And I think the lesson we learned is don't look at this as a conflict, but look at it as a balance. And we have to appreciate both. We have to approach both and find a solution that works for the people that we're targeting. And I think it works the same for you as well. And the following presentation will be Beth, who will provide, I think, amazing information about her group. Thank you.
Uju, Anin, Nagani Anangukwe, Indigo, Makwan Dudem, Gawaba Baganakag, Nindunjaba. My name is Beth Ann Hedman Dodds. I am from the Bear Clan and I am from the White Earth Nation. And I'm here to tell you about, as a grantee, as a community solutions grantee, about the program we developed with the help of Community Solutions. So the Indigenous Parent Leadership Initiative, what is it? It is a 22-week journey. I have 21 here, but we adapted it. 22-week journey into the world of child development, advocacy, parent leadership, civics, cultural learning, cultural knowledge. We use 2 curriculum models, the Parent Leadership Institute and the Indigenous Foundations curriculum. I will refer to it as IPLI. IPLI was created in partnership with Indigenous Visioning, the National Parent Leadership Institute, the White Earth Nation, the Red Lake Nation, and Dr. Anton Troyer from Bemidji State University. We piloted this program in White Earth, and we are the first tribal community to implement a civics curriculum by the National Parent Leadership Institute with a cultural component. Our Indigenous Foundations curriculum was built with the help of Red Lake elders and White Earth elders, along with Dr. Anton Troyer. The curriculum is based on the 4 seasons and has 5 lessons within each of those seasons. The curriculum was designed to be adapted and expanded upon according to the community where we are implementing. As Anishinaabe people, our traditional customs can change from village to village and family to family. So this curriculum gives a very wonderful broad exposure with that ability to adapt and expand. Our companion book is The Cultural Toolbox by Dr. Anton Troyer. We are purpose-driven. We are promoting the health and safety and learning of children. We are offering family supports such as stipends for mileage. Many of our participants drive over an hour to an hour and a half by road to get to our classes. The classes are evaluated by our participants to help us measure our success. We are community driven. Like I said previously, our Indigenous Foundations curriculum was built by Dr. Anton Troyer and elders from Red Lake and White Earth. Our facilitators come from the community in which the classes are implemented. So participants, childcare providers, all staff that's involved, we all hail from the White Earth community. Participants are required to complete a community project in our initiative. That is one of the main focuses of the project. That's where they develop their passion with purpose. We have an advisory group, and it is made up of alumni. It is made up of community members. It connects us to our tribal community and helps get that word out. Phase 1 of the initiative is about self-discovery. Through a series of one-on-one and group activities, this is where they are starting to identify their own assets and needs. From there, they moved to their families' assets and needs, and then they're able to identify their tribal communities' assets and needs. Through these activities, they find their passion. And it's an emotional time. It's a vulnerable time. It is a time, those first 10 weeks, it is a safe space. There are things said. We don't allow outsiders. There are no guest speakers because it is emotional and vulnerable. Phase 2 of the initiative, the latter 10 weeks, is about navigating the system. So they're finding their passion with purpose. They want to get into their tribal community and help. Now we're going to teach them how to do it. So they are learning about local systems. They are learning about tribal government. They are learning about school boards. They are learning about their mayoral candidates in their local towns. They're diving in, they're learning about policies, they're learning about how laws are made. We had the privilege of our tribal government coming in into our classroom and being able to answer questions in an intimate setting. And it was a beautiful experience to have people in authority come to us. We weave these two cultures together. The National Parent Leadership Institute has allowed us to what we call indigenize their curriculum, as well as adding our own curriculum. And it has weaved in beautifully together where core concepts of the National Parent Leadership Institute curriculum, say on communication, it directly relates to the core teachings of our respect teachings and how we go about that in the westernized world and how we do that with our culture. We are doing some capacity building. Right here you have Susie Ballett and Marlena Hansen. They are graduates of cohort 1, and they have turned around and are now giving back to their community by becoming facilitators for the National Parent Leadership Institute curriculum, as well as Susie Ballett is a knowledge keeper and pipe carrier in our White Earth community, and she has now become our cultural facilitator, who is sharing the most wonderful traditional knowledge with us, weaving it in. I can't say enough. I could talk to you guys for hours, days on this. Multi-generational healing. Here again is Susie. This is her son, Emil, and her husband, David. They joined cohort 2, and I'm happy to say they graduated yesterday in a lovely ceremony, and we're so proud of them. Community projects. I want to be able to give you a taste of what's happening. So here is Autumn. Her community project is called Wicoie Believes in You. Wicoie means Northern Lights woman. And she identified a need in her community for hygiene kits for those going into treatment. There aren't any. So Autumn worked with her local village's community council and her tribal council and various tribal programs and built hygiene kits. And now they have them when they're entering into treatment. Oh, it doesn't want to advance for me. Oh, there we go. Oh, oh. Stop touching it. Another community project I wanted to highlight is Fawn. Fawn's community project is Nigan Nabin, which means look ahead. And she is building a culturally based youth group for ages 13 to 18 in her village of Rice Lake in the White Earth community. She worked with her village's community council and various tribal programs to help get that implemented. Fawn also graduated yesterday. We are helping change policies and systems Leanne is currently in Baltimore, Maryland, attending the Federal SNAP Community Impact Council. She is now a member of that, as well as part of the advisory board for Mojave Atwa Community Action Program. Ashley is now sitting on the Racial Equity Accountability Project board, and that is through the Northwest Minnesota Foundation and works to dismantle the racial disparities in the homeless response system. Ashley is also implementing Aaron's Law in the Mahnomen School District, which works towards sexual abuse and exploitation prevention for children ages K through 12, age appropriate. Tessie Dorman is also enforcing the bullying policy in the Mahnomen School District by forming a parent advisory group that will ensure that continued enforcement. Looking to the future, we are aiming to bring the children's component into the White Earth community with the Indigenous Children's Leadership Initiative geared towards children ages 3 to 12 that would attend classes while their parents attend class. That program would bring these children a book to add to their home library weekly, as well as a group community project. We'd also like to implement a more structured alumni program. We have 21 graduates now between 2 cohorts, and we want to offer them continued support with professional development, networking, and the continued support of their alumni, fellow alumni. Miigwech, thank you for having us here. I'm really excited to be here to tell you about this amazing program. So if you have any questions, please come see me. I would love to give you my card. Miigwech. Next up, we have Andrea.
Sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Andrea Heras. I work at Centro Tyrone Guzman. Centro Tyrone Guzman is a nonprofit organization that serves the Latin community. We are located in Franklin and Chicago in 19th Street in Minneapolis. We primarily serve the Latin community that's their primary language is in Spanish. So today I'm talking about Mi Pequeño Mundo, which is a home visit program that we developed with the support of Community Solutions Funds. So the goal of this program was to increase the Latin parent self-efficacy and community connection to enhance a healthy child development from prenatal to 3 years and throughout life. The program is an early intervention program inspiring with the Montessori philosophy that supports pregnant Latin mothers and their child 0 to 3 age. Sorry, I don't know. There we go. So how this curriculum began, actually, it was an idea from the Siembra Montessori preschool committee parents at Centro. They had asked Centro to offer an infant and toddler environment, but due to fundings and space from Centro Tyrone Guzman, that was not enough for us to build an infant and toddler environment. So they still had the idea in mind, Centro, and then Community Solutions Fund, the opportunity came up and Centro applied for it and they received the funding. For this curriculum program, we had a committee with Molly from Montessori Center, Mary Heras, that she helped us with the tools evaluation from the curriculum. We had Sabrina Bonilla, which she helped us with pregnancy and early childhood trainings. And we had two Siembra staff, parents from Siembra and Centro staff in general. So the first year of this funding, which was for 3 years, The first year was the informative investigation, which I personally interviewed early childhood professional educators. I interviewed role models, male role models from our Latin community. And we also conducted 2 World Cafes in which we invited participants from Centro, from Siembra's preschool, and in general, the participants that we serve in our community. So in those individual interviews and World Cafes, we personally asked questions to the community. What would they like for this program to offer? And what were their needs, their strengths, their interests? And for the early childhood professionals, I personally asked what were their experience in home visiting, what were the needs that they saw once children were at preschool. So what would they think that we should offer before preschool age? And other questions regarding the relationship that they built with his families, the trust and the connection that they could give us any advice or feedback of what they had already experienced. So once we heard from these individual interviews and World Cafes, we conducted the community forum in which we presented the curriculum according to what we heard from our community and those individual interviews. And we had any last feedback from them of what they had for us in suggestion for the home visiting program. If I can get Hope for the next slide, sorry. So before our pilot program, which was the second year of the grant, Centro hired 3 Connectores, which one of them is myself. And we were trained with specific topics regarding what the community had asked: pregnancy and early childhood, breastfeeding, home visiting basics, mindfulness and relaxation, and so on, as you can see. So for the pilot program, we recruited 20 families in which we offer weekly home visiting once an hour. Every home visiting was for about an hour. The visits were through Zoom because we got the grant during COVID-19. At the beginning, it was very challenging, but we got the families to get familiar with Zoom. At the beginning, we did have a lot of conversations through phone, but once we got the Zoom going on, it was pretty nice to see that our community could handle technology, which was new for all of us. So within those visits, at the beginning, we had assessments, and in those assessments, families just completed assessments that could help us with pre and post evaluations. And we also, the families, the mother, father, or in general, they set goals with the Connectora from October 21 to March 2022. We work with those families so they can reach those goals that they set at the beginning for themselves, for the family in general, and specifically for the baby or the child. So for the results of the pilot program, as I mentioned, we had assessments completed, and the results, we use ACQs, so some children were referred according to the results. They were referred to Help Me Grow. We had knowledge increasement, and we have early parent practices common. So at the end of the pilot program, 2 Centro staff, they conducted a focus group with these participants from the pilot program, where we had feedback regarding the relationship with the Conectoras, the curriculum in general. We offer the visits. So they had a space where they can really just give us feedback so we can improve the curriculum for them. Once we had that from the pilot program, we hit the 3rd year of the grant, which was the full implementation, which went from June 2022 to June 2023, which is next month that we're finishing. And we served 54 families. For the full implementation, we serve families from the rural area as well. For the pilot program, we only serve families from Hennepin County. Since we had feedback from the focus group from the pilot program, we, instead of doing the weekly visits, we went to bi-weekly visits, and we went to a minimum of 30 to 45 minutes per visit. This doesn't mean that we couldn't go less or more than those minutes. It's just, it depended on the need of the moment of the family that we were doing the visit. So it can go range, the minutes can go. In the pilot program and for the full implementation, we provided workshops. More ahead, I'm going to show you some pictures of it. But for the pilot program, we had only workshops through Zoom. Once the full implementation, I think around November and December 2022, we finally had workshops in person, which was really nice because the moms could come to Centro. They could have some coffee. We got to see each other face to face. We made sure that we had childcare for their kids. Moms have more than one child, and so we made sure we have a space for them to relax while we were help for the other children. And as for assessments, we reduced the assessments, but because we had feedback from the families that there were too many assessments at the beginning and during pilot program, so we stayed with the most, the ones that we consider most important for our community, and we had workshops that included certain assessments like positive discipline. We had workshops about psychological aid and so on, like breastfeeding workshops and nutrition workshops. Here's a picture of the conectores. We are 3, as I mentioned at the beginning. I think for a key lessons in learning is that as as conectoras, we have to be very flexible with our family. As I mentioned, they have different needs and the moments that we are visiting them through Zoom or in person. And mainly the visits are in Zoom, sorry, but we see each other in person sometimes. But it's really important for us to provide them a safe space where they can be heard and they can feel that we give them trust, because we're not giving them what they don't want. We're listening to them and helping them connect with what they need and what they need for their family and for their child. Can I get help with the next slide? Sorry. I just want to read a couple quotes from the families, because as mentioned, in every cycle we do focus groups so we can hear back from the participants, so we have any feedback that we can change or improve for them. And one of the quotes that I'm going to read is here is, "Thank you very much for everything taught and the workshops that you have given us personally. The advice of the connector and the way to support us to find solutions have been very helpful. This program provides tools on my children's development. It helped us to have a better understanding of what the stage my son is in and help me with his development. We set goals as a family, and the Connectore was always providing information to be able to achieve the goals. Thank you for allowing me to meet more people. Thank you so much." And I just have a couple pictures that I want to show really quick. We have the first pictures of a child completing a food work activity via Zoom. And it was just a regular home visit. And the other pictures, we have some moms that are painting, which this painting that they're doing actually is going to be transmitted outside Centro in the mural walls. So each program, we have different programs in Centro, and we have murals that are reflecting what the program means. And the families came up with this idea of how they identify themselves, what elements did they identify with, and this is made by them, by the maternal program and the home visiting program. And here we have a couple pictures of workshops that we did online. The 2 pictures are nutrition, where we provide a healthy recipe and we send the ingredients to the families and we connect via Zoom and we complete the recipe together. And the other picture is a picture about a program that we started, Birth to 5, which the families can bring their children at Centro in a Montessori environment, and they can interact with Montessori materials and interact with other children, and the parents can interact with each other. And thank you very much. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me. I'll be over here. Thank you. Sorry, and Fawn will be going next.
Anim buju and dinaway mani de genigo kunst indigenous cause gash makag in Nunjaba. Hello, my relatives. My name is Fawn Youngbear-Tibbetts. I was born in what is now known as the Leech Lake Reservation, but I'm a descendant of the White Earth Band of Minnesota Ojibwe. I'm currently filling 2 roles at Wicoie Nandagikendan. I am the Indigenous Foods Coordinator and recently been promoted as well to Program Director. So we're hiring. Wicoie Nandagikendan is a Dakota and Ojibwe language immersion program in South Minneapolis. It was founded by a roundtable of grandmothers in 1996. Along with Nagani and state representatives, Wicoie spearheaded the language legislation in the state of Minnesota. We have been actively teaching our full immersion classroom program since 2006. And we are housed in the 4 Directions program at the Family Partnership on Bloomington and Lake Street in South Minneapolis. South Minneapolis is home to the largest urban Native population in the country. This is something we kind of go tit for tat with Denver over, but currently we hold the record. And 95% of those live in the East Phillips neighborhood, okay? So Wicoie, we also partner with other language immersion programs throughout the state and the country. Currently, we're partnering with Hawaiians and some other folks as well. But we have a teacher training program. We use the master and apprenticeship model, and we've produced well over 75 language immersion teachers in the state of Minnesota. So just a little background on what we do and where we're from. Our teachers focus on teaching culturally relevant, nature-based, full immersion curriculum. You won't hear any English in our classrooms. We know that culture and language must be taught together, and that doing so at an early age helps develop a strong sense of cultural self-efficacy and self-esteem in our students and our community. Our hopes are that we can bring dying languages back from the edge using immersion programs in Minneapolis. To date, post-COVID, there is only one left alive Minnesota dialect speaker of the Dakota